Okay, hopefully getting better set up for some videos, 1 week at a time, one step at a time. This week we're going to do chicken satay, and it's going to be chicken on skewers with a peanut butter sauce, and so we're going to make a little cucumber salad with that as well. If you're not using chicken, the veggie version, I'm going to use firm tofu. I get this one in littles. And if you are using chicken, of course, try to get free range. Hard enough to get organic and free range chicken locally, but it can be done, and you can get free range chicken in most of the big supermarkets. So we'll make a wee start. We're going to make the marinade. So a marinade is just a type of sauce that you're going to mix up, that you're going to let your chicken pieces or your tofu pieces sit in for a while to absorb a bit more flavour. Okay, so we're going to make a marinade, and then we're going to marinate the chicken. However, we're going to keep some of it as a wee sauce. So if you've got a wee small saucepan or something similar, we're going to make some sauce for the end for dipping in. Now the recipe suggests that you can grill the satay sticks or the skewers, which, by the way, I have just put them into some water. So I've got these little skewers here. They're very pointy on one end, so just be careful. And I'm just soaking them in water, more so for the barbecue. You would do that because whenever you put them on the flames of a barbecue, there's a possibility of the dry wood catching fire. So if you soak them in water first, then that eliminates that. Not just as important under the grill or the oven, but I'm just in the way of doing it. So I'm going to do mine tonight, not under the grill, but in the oven. So I'm just going to do a tray like so, and place the skewers on them and cook them in the oven. And when they're in the oven, then I can make my rice and my salad. So back to the marinade, we're going to get started, and I'm going to peel and grate some ginger. So I peel with a teaspoon. So if you've got a teaspoon, it's a nice wee trick for peeling ginger. It's a bit sort of knobbly on it. It can be difficult with the knife or with a peeler. So what you can do is get a teaspoon, get a hold of it like this, put your thumb on one end of the ginger piece, and then scrape the skin off, and it comes off quite easily. So have a wee go at that. It's a good one to learn. And then we just need a small piece, so that'll be up to you. You'll know if you like ginger or your family likes ginger. Ginger can be quite spicy sometimes. And I'm just going to cut that little end bit off. So you might have, well, you can decide what knives to use. I've got a big chopping knife here, but of course I love little dog knives as well, so you can use those if you have them. Just cut the end off. So I'm not using all of this ginger, just a little bit. And I'm going to just get the bowl and grate that in. So I've got this small edge of the grater here, so not as tiny as for Parmesan, but so you can do that straight into the bowl, or if you're working with younger children, of course you can set it down, secure it to the board. So just being careful as it gets closer and closer to your finger and thumb. Leave a little gap. Some of the fibres here stay intact, so I just get rid of those at the end. And then what I do is scoop inside. All the ginger has collected on the inside of the grater, and I'm just going to scoop that into my bowl. And then I'm going to do the same with, I'm going to grate the garlic. So I've got some garlic cloves here, so you can peel your garlic first by just cutting the little end off, taking the skin off. And and then we're going to grate the garlic or crush the garlic if you want into the bowl with the ginger. So again, you can either do it straight into the bowl, now this goes, it's quite soft, so it's going to get quicker down to your finger and thumb, so just extra care there if you're working with younger kids. So maybe just let them start it and then you finish it yourself. Or again, just use the crusher. Okay. Two garlic cloves and some ginger. Now, the other ingredients, I'm just going to put this in the food waste. The other ingredients that I have for my marinade is soy sauce. So I didn't actually have a lime tonight, so I'm going to use an orange. I'm going to zest a little bit of orange and squeeze it. We have a wee mix of lime and orange, some lime juice, honey. I'm going to use some maple instead, coconut milk, peanut butter. So I'm just going to measure out some ingredients here. So I'm going to do my orange here first, so I'm going to zest this first. So if you're going to zest fruit, better that you have unwaxed fruit. So if you've got a lemon or a lime, any citrus will really do for this one. And then I want to zest it, so I'm going to turn it around. It's all going in the same bowl here, but I'm going to turn it around and do the even finer one for the zesting. And zesting is just moving it around and taking just the surface, the orangey bit or the green bit of a lime or the yellow bit of a lemon, and once it starts to go through to look a little bit paler or whiter there, we don't want that bit in, it's a bit bitter. The pith is what's underneath the zest. So I'm just going to go around, get a little bit of zest, and I do this before I cut the citrus fruit. So just a little bit there, mix it in. And then I'm going to cut the lemon, lime or orange in half, and I'm going to squeeze it. So either with a little citrus squeezer like this, or I've got this little handheld one that you can do straight into the bowl. Sometimes good to do this one because you can catch the pips easier. So pushing down and twisting at the same time. There we go. And we're going to add the juice. So the juice and the zest of the citrus has gone in. Okay, so we've got our soy sauce and we've got our honey. So it's a teaspoon of honey and a tablespoon of soy. So get your measuring spoons or just a teaspoon from the drawer. And we've got, this is a teaspoon of honey, or I'm using maple. Tablespoon of soy. powder. So we need some curry powder as well for this. So mild curry powder might be better. I've got medium, if that's okay for us because I like it. So a tablespoon of the curry powder. The 3 tablespoons of smooth peanut butter. Two. And 3. Okay. So I'm just going to move this. So I want to get this mixed up now. This is our marinade and our sauce. So we want to get the coconut milk into it and then give it a really good mix up. So opening the tin of coconut milk. You can get these small ones, actually you can get these B&M, Home Bargains, places like that. They're much handier. Don't always need those big tins of coconut milk. So, carefully opening your tin, and with coconut milk it can be quite solid on the top and then very runny and liquidy underneath. Some of them, just depends on the actual brand. So you might need a spoon to help you get it out. This one looks quite liquidy, so there we go. And then I want to mix this up, so just with a spoon or a fork or a small whisk would do. So again, the recipes that we're trying to come up with are either recipes that we think kids will like or that they can help you in the kitchen with. So certainly stirring this, or if you're cooking independently as a child and watching this, then you've probably got a good handle on this. Just stirring, mixing it all in. That's it. So the bits that you might need help with if you're cooking independently is just cutting with sharp knives, using the oven, but we'll talk about that as we go along. So we've got our nice sauce made up here. Now we want 2/3 of that to go into the small pot. So you can spoon it in, you can pour it in. It's just quite thick. So we're going to put about 2/3 and leaving about 1/3. And then we want to add our chicken or our tofu into this. So we're going to set this aside because we're going to heat it up later on. Okay, so we've got our marinade ready. I'm just going to set it off to the side, and the next bit that we're going to do is to bash the chicken. So handling raw chicken then, we want to make sure we've got, I'm not handling it just yet, it's in that little bag, but we want to make sure that we have got our hands washed before we start. I'm just going to clear a little bit of space, so I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. You can use gloves, of course. Bashing. Not completely essential, but also quite good fun to just bang it. So bashing meat, I'm going to get it nice and flat. It should make the meat a little bit more tender. So just give it a good bash like that. It's a rolling pin, okay? If nothing else, it does feel good. So I'm just going to get my wee cloth back down underneath my chopping board. So raw chicken, yeah, clean hands to start with, of course. And if you're handling it, washing hands straight after, changing your chopping board as well, because raw chicken can contaminate other foods. So we want to keep the raw chicken separate from the other foods altogether. Okay, so I'm going to change my knife as well. Okay, so I want to cut the chicken up either into strips or into chunks, okay? So when it comes to using the skewers later, the strips are trickier to work with, but the chunks are easier to work with, so it's really up to you. The first thing I've noticed here is that we want to trim it a little bit, so just keeping your fingers back there and working a sharp knife. Sharp knife is obviously safer than a blunt knife because it's going to cut into something straight away as opposed to slipping off it a little bit if it's not sharp enough. So just any yucky bits here. If you're using tofu, well, I'm going to do that separately in a moment, but you would just be cutting it into chunks. So I'm going to get rid of some of this excess here. And I'm just going to spread it out and I'm going to cut it. If I'm cutting it into chunks, I'm going to cut them into about that size, which is about 2.5 by 2.5 centimeters. Okay. We want them big enough to fit on. Now, if you're using corn pieces, as I've said in the recipe, they're very small, so they're going to be a lot trickier just to thread. If you were able to get corn fillets and you use that, then you can cut them to bigger chunks, and the tofu would need to be quite big chunks too. But you can do strips of chicken as well. So for the strips of chicken, I'm just going to hold it steady, and I'm going to get a long strip like that. Okay, so strips or chunks. I'm going to do a couple of each. The chunks may take just a little bit longer to cook in the oven. Or the grill. You can turn these on the grill as well if you want. I just think it's easier to put them into the oven, and then you don't have to think about them for a while. Just set the timer and get on with your other tasks. So, I'm going to get rid of this to the food waste. So I've got my chunks. I'm going to do that for another 2 or 3 fillets, and then I'm going to add it into our marinade. So it goes, and I'm just going to mix that all around, coat it with the marinade like so. I'm going to take away the raw chicken dishes and get them washed straight away in hot soapy water, and I'm going to cover the marinade, and then I'm going to leave it well, we can leave it in the fridge. You can do this bit and then leave it in the fridge even overnight. It's going to absorb more flavours. You can do it 2 or 3 hours in advance and then just come back to it later whenever you're ready to cook them and eat them straight away. So we're going to cover that, and so our chicken is marinating, and I've made another marinade here because I'm doing both. I'm doing the vegetarian one and I'm doing the meaty one. So I've got my tofu here, and I've opened it up here, and it's a big block of tofu. I'm not going to use all of this tonight probably. And it's sitting in liquid, so you need to drain that liquid off in the sink with the sieve or just... And this is how it looks. So as you see, I changed my chopping board, changed my knife, and I'm going to cut some pretty big chunks here. So I want to cut that into it's about 2.5 by 2.5 centimeters again. Okay, so nice big chunk of tofu. Actually, I will cut it all up anyway. It's quite nice to cut, nice and soft. So yeah, I've made up the recipe again for the marinade, and then I'm going to marinate the tofu. So for cooking up the chicken skewers, I'm going to preheat the oven. So I've put the oven on to about 180. So we're just letting the oven heat up while we're getting the other things ready. So I'm going to put my tofu. Now, if you've ended up with silken tofu, it could be a wee bit tricky just to cut. So you're better to get the firm one or get tempeh, which is firm, full of protein. So your dinner, of course, needs to have a little bit of protein. Get a spoon for that instead. A big bit of protein in it. And tofu is very high in protein. Now, if you wanted to make this with vegetables, I would go with cauliflower and broccoli. You could use the florets of cauliflower and broccoli to do this. Now, I'm only going to go through the satay recipe and the cucumber salad. So with that, you can serve noodles, you can serve rice, whatever you want on the side. Okay, so that's that one marinating as well. And then we're going to get our cucumber salad ready. So I had thought about this recipe because it was coming to the end of the cucumber season. There was a few left, but actually it's kind of over now in November. But they were giving us so many cucumbers in the polytunnel there. So one cucumber seed, one cucumber plant, we definitely got at least 50 cucumbers off each plant. So they're really worth growing, and they'll grow right through. They'll be producing most of the summer, right up until last week, really first week in November. So we're going to get another bowl then. That's for our salad. It's not a bowl, but I've got this container here. And I want to peel ribbons. So again, if you're working with children, this is definitely possible. So we're just peeling away from ourselves the full length of the cucumber, and just keep peeling until you get down to where the seeds are. Now you can discard the skin if you want. Even if I'm buying cucumbers, I only buy organic, so the skin might be safe to eat. Getting closer to the seeds now. close to the seeds because I don't want to get the seeds in here, but I'll just put that through the juicer. So you can take out any of the tougher bits of skin if you want. I can pull them out, but I quite like the skin. So, and then we'll just arrange our cucumber ribbons in a little bowl like that. So it depends how many you're feeding. You can maybe do another one, or you could make a little salad on the side as well. So and then we're going to make the dressing. I'm going to make the dressing for the cucumber salad with a tablespoon of sugar, golden castor sugar if you have it. I've just got ordinary castor sugar here. So a tablespoon of sugar and 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar, or I'm going to use rice wine vinegar, so that would be similar. Not the vinegar you put on your chips. There we go. Now we want to give that a good stir, so I want to dissolve the sugar in the vinegar, okay? So this is the little dressing for the cucumber salad. You could leave it to the side and let people just drizzle a little bit of their own in it, or you can just pop it over the cucumber. I'm going to add a few coriander leaves, and if you like sweet chili sauce, you can add it as well at any point. It goes well with the chicken skewers. So as you can see, the sugar's dissolving. So it just looks like a nice syrup now. I'm going to go ahead and drizzle that over. So I've got a little bit of coriander here. So again, coriander's still growing at the moment. Likes the cold. If you have a wee coriander plant, you can look after it for another month or two. Still be picking away at it. Just the leaves for this, if you like coriander. Or you could put it to the side and let people decide if they want it or not. So we'll just break that up and into the cucumber salad. So I'm going to prepare the chicken skewers now, and I'm going to brush a little bit of oil on the pan. You could put some baking paper down or some tin foil as well. And I'm just going to it's about a tablespoon of oil. Now my hands are clean again because I'm going to handle the raw chicken, and I'm going to get my skewers. So remember, pointy bit away from you whenever you're going to hook them on here. So I've got my chicken ready. Ooh, it's garlicky. I'm going to take each piece. These are the chunks. So to do the chunks, I just want to thread them on nice and carefully through the center of each chunk. A bit messy here. And bring it down a bit. So this, you do need to be careful with this because the skewers are sharp. So I'm probably going to put maybe 4 or 5 chunks. Per skewer. I'll maybe actually go for 6. So it's covered in the marinade, and then I'm just going to set it on the baking tray. Now I'm going to get one to put with the strip. So if you remember, I had done a few strips instead of chunks. Let's see if I can find it here. So this is trickier than to thread on, because what you want to do is you want to push the sharp bit in, slide it down a bit, and almost like you're knitting it on. So it's going in and out, and in and out, and you're sliding it down the skewer like so. Now I think I can fit, just because of the size of the strips, I can fit 2 strips on there. So I'll try and find another strip. So usually you'll decide if you're doing it this way or if you're doing it with the chunks, whereas I did a bit of both. So there's another strip there. So you're threading it in, so in, so we've made a nice kind of ribbony effect there, and we're going to set it down on the tray. I'm going to go straight to washing my hands, and so you're going to finish that up. You're going to fill the tray with your skewers and doing the same with the tofu one. So I'm going to take a separate tray. We're not cooking the vegetarian one with the meat one. I'm doing a separate tray of them, and then we're going to pop them in the hot oven for about half an hour. So we were cooking the chicken and the tofu skewers in the oven for about half an hour. In the meantime, towards the end, set an alarm for about 20 minutes, enough time to get the dishes done. I did some quick noodles and some rice. So I'm serving this up a couple of different ways. The tofu is going to the noodles. So I put a little bit of extra sauce on this. This dries up quite a bit in the oven actually. So I had threaded the tofu like that, and then I put a little bit of extra sauce. I turned it while it was cooking. So I did that with the other ones as well actually. I give them a little turn round. So just you need to get someone maybe to do that for you. I've made a wee bit of a mess of the baking tray here actually, so yeah, put some foil or some non-stick paper down. But that's how the skewers look now that they're out of the oven. To check that they're cooked all the way through is to get a knife and a fork and just cut into one of them. Cut into a big fat juicy one, and if it's cooked white all the way through, no sign of pink whatsoever, then all the others will be too if you tried the biggest bit there. So they're ready to serve. Now the sauce then, so the sauce was 2/3 of the sauce was in a small pot, and you need to put that on a low heat for 3 or 4 minutes just. So putting it on a low heat and giving it a good stir around so it's heated up at the end, okay? So I'm going to put some chicken skewers like so, and chicken chunks on that one. But then what I did do was, while we were waiting on the other chicken to cook, I had a very hungry person here, and so I put their marinated chicken just into the frying pan for 10 minutes. So, and it's come up really, really nice. So there's some chicken chunks that were marinated in the satay. They're looking nice and golden brown actually. And then I've got my sauce, so I want to drizzle my satay sauce. You can serve this on the side in a little bowl for people to dip. That might be a more traditional way, so but I'm going to drizzle a little bit over the top, like so. Maybe even doing a little bit like this and then having some extra on the side. A little bit on the rice there as well. So I've got plenty of sauce left, so I could put that into a little bowl and let people help themselves to some extra sauce. And then of course I was going to do my little ribbon salad on the side. It was just nice and fresh, cuts through that creamy coconut. So that's it. Tofu or skewer with satay sauce, chicken skewers, and then just satay fried chicken, rice and cucumber salad. So there we go. I think it looks fabulous and I've already tasted it and it's delicious. So I hope that all works out for you. Any questions, send me a wee text or an email. We're hoping to get on top of the videos a wee bit better over the next few weeks. So hopefully I haven't waffled too much, and also hope that I've given enough information about what we're doing. So yeah, thank you.